What you're seeing here is a deer, and it's not just any ordinary deer. Actually, it kinda is, but never mind that, because I programmed procedural animation and this deer's head. Also, this is an addition to my survival game, so that means I had to move the project to Godot. So first things first, creating the character controller, starting with bringing the character model to Godot and programming the player controller, and created a simple test scene with a platform and added a camera with controls from the character controller. I really hope y'all don't get tired of me constantly repeating myself over making character controllers here. But anyways, it was time to upgrade this platform to this terrain generator chunk that was created via the marching cube algorithm. And after successfully running a single chunk, I wrote another program, the infinite world generator, which was easy to run here in Godot. And with that done, now it was time to bring the deer. So I created a few animals, a rabbit that's been updated actually, and a fox, and of course the deer, which will be the main focus here for the video, and made a few animations which were the idle, the walk, and run, and created the deer node as a character controller node, added its collision node, and set up the deer's head and neck with the IK behavior. Oh, about the IK, well, what I did here was program the procedural animation by rotating and moving the head around. So I wrote a few lines here testing the head rotations to observe how it behaves, and added some body rotation to understand the local head rotation transformation and with the look at function. It was easy for the head to rotate at the target, and to make it look more natural, I added a little damping and did some tests with its head movements in the y-axis. With the head procedural animation mostly done, I programmed the deer to simply follow the target for now. But it looks stiff, so I created the animation tree and programmed that in its idle and a blend of the walk and run cycles. And if you notice, the ears were offset its place. And I just forgot to update its ears in place when switching from animation to procedural animation. So with all that stuff, instead of keeping the deer standing in place, I programmed a simple wander behavior. All it does, the deer follows random target location that updates every few seconds. With the deer program, I need a weapon to hunt it. So I designed it and modeled a bow because I wanted to get some drawing practice here. So please comment below what y'all think of this bow that I designed here. So when I imported the bow to the project, I created its nodes scene and set it up with the player controller to it. I programmed the bow's animation, but trust me when I say this, I was spamming the shoot button, but as you see in an animation, you can't actually tell if that's what's happening. So I added a couple IK nodes controlling the bow's rig, and a target node that controls the IKs that'll be programmed under the player controller to shoot. So with the new bow animation done, I unexpectedly struggled to program some spawning projectiles that are just rigid body cubes. So my first attempt at shooting projectiles, I somehow caused the player to just shoot up so high. Then the second attempt, I thought maybe the force direction was the wrong direction, so I flipped it, but that caused the player to just push back, of course. Third attempt, I thought I was setting the direction and it's a local, so I updated it to the global direction. But here, I was back to shooting the player up, but even higher. Then the fourth attempt, maybe the problem is the projectile spawning in a local position. So of course I tried setting it in a global position, but hey, if you probably guessed, that didn't work either. If you look here closely, these projectiles were spawning hell knows where, and I didn't understand why. But after that, I changed the application force, not realizing that there's the apply force method. It still didn't fix anything. All that I did, it just showered the player with cubes. So with the fifth attempt, the projectiles were now spawning in the right spot. It must have been this one line here that set the projectile's parent to the main scene. Then the sixth attempt, now with a much stronger force, but in the wrong direction again. So of course I just flipped the direction, and now finally with 7 tries, the bow finally properly shoots. So with those fixes done, I found a problem with the bow. Whenever I'm spamming the shoot button, again, the center of the bowstring gets stuck in place in a load state. But I figured by simply removing this line here that was causing it to modify the bow controller initial pose, its initial position. And with that simple line removed, the bow shooting animation works now. The whole bow now works. And when I thought I was done with this part of the project, I added the deer and bow, set it up in the main scene. But when I was testing the deer's look function, to my horror, it twisted its head like the girl from The Exorcist and would ignore me like when your girl is upset with you over something you don't even know what you did. So to understand what was causing the problem, I installed the debug draw library in Godot and drew the head transform to see if it's pointing at its target. But it turns out that the head's transform was looking at the target. But I was confused because we can of course see that the head was looking at a different direction. So I was lost what I was doing. I did learn that it's recommended importing assets as GLB files, so I tried re-importing the deer asset as a GLB file instead, but even though that didn't fix the problem, it removed the random conversion transformation from using an FBX file like the 100 scale and the random negative 90-degree rotation. But when all hope seemed lost, I figured the issue, and yet it was so simple but hidden. For all the bones in the head, I wasn't keeping an initial rotation and position variable to store. So every time the deer's rig is switching from the animation to the procedural animation, the bones in the head change local rotation and position. So I stored each bone a variable of their initial local position and rotation. When swapping from regular animation to the procedural animation, its position and rotations are set to its initials. Now, if you just ignore the deer floating above when it's moving, it was great knowing that I was correct of the problem and solution, and felt like I finally found inner peace at last. But I was too quick to get excited to realize that when getting up too close to the deer, it caused its neck to stretch up so high. But by simply setting a minimum maximum head y axis position, it fixed the problem. And now it was perfect. Now testing it again in the main scene, it was cool to see the deer's sort of procedural animation, which of course isn't perfect now. But hey, tell me what y'all think in the comments below, cause this is kind of cool, in my opinion though. An annoying issue that I've always have had here is the disrupt gameplay movements when basically disruptly getting stuck in the terrain edges. And there was of course a simple fix to this, which was just increasing the maximum angle to the character controller so they can just slide up with ease. Honestly, I didn't know why I just found this out just now, but hey, now my problem is fixed. Now let's be realistic here. Deers don't chase people, so I reprogrammed the deer to run away whenever the player gets close to the deer, and also added a deer health stat that'll take damage with the working bow. And the last thing was a few lines of just a temporary death animations for now, so that way we know the deer has reached below 0 health. Well, that was that. Another update on the survival game that now has been moved on to Godot. There will be plans to bring the rabbit and the fox at some point and more, but for now, if you enjoyed this vid, hit the like button and smash that subscribe button for more content over the survival game. So see you in another update, I guess.